What's going on, guys? This is Mikeinoid, and today I will be doing sort of a review of the PlayStation Vita. I wanted to talk about my experience with the Vita within the small amount of time of owning the console. I did an unboxing of my Vita back in April, and since then I've been doing a good amount of stuff with it. So I'm just going to talk about the specific Vita I have, some of the things I like about it, some of the things I don't like, what games I've been playing, and some of the hacking I've done. I'm going to do my best and try to cover as much as I can. So some things about the Vita is that the Vita originally launched in Japan in 2011. So the first model that really came out was the 1000 model. That's the heftier one of the Vitas. You had the Wi-Fi one, or you had the 3G one, which I think was tied only to AT&T. And then of course they came out with the 2000 model, which is also known as the Vita Slim, which is the model I have. And back in the day, its main competitor was the Nintendo 3DS. When you're comparing it with numbers, the 3DS did win. And I mean, honestly, owning a 3DS was kind of the reason why I didn't really want a Vita. Another main reason was the memory cards, which we will talk about in the video. But I just had really no interest in picking it up when it was still being supported by Sony. And you know, the price of the Vitas, they've gone down, but you know, they still kind of keep its price. I actually bought this Vita for 130 bucks. It was used, but it did come with its original box. It came with the charger, it came with the AR cards, the manual, so it still came complete in box. Now this Vita did come from Japan. This is an all white model. There's also a model that the border itself is black, and I believe the analog sticks are black, but as you can see, this is an all white model. So we're just gonna take a look at some of the things it has. You got the 2 analog sticks, you have the 4 face buttons, you have the D-pad, you have start and select, you have the home button right here, and then on the top we have the power button, we have the game card slot right here, you have the LED notification lights and power light, and you have your volume buttons up here, as well as shoulder buttons. And also, I forgot to mention is that you have the front facing camera, and then on the back you have the back facing camera, and then also this is a touchpad right here. You also have 2 speakers in the front, as well as 2 holes for, you know, a wrist strap. So the main reason why I went with the 2000 model is basically you have micro USB as the charger for the system, and the 1000 model uses a proprietary cable for that. Now I know some people still go for the 1000 model mainly because of the OLED display. I've heard so many things about that display, while this uses LCD. Now for some of you that might matter, but for me it doesn't really matter. For me, I think games on here still look really good. So if you want the best looking experience, then the 1000 model is the way to go. Now some of the things I like about the Vita is, once again, the micro USB charging is really helpful. The battery life on this thing is incredible. I think I played this thing for hours and it still had a good amount of battery left, so you don't really need to worry about the battery life on this. I think the 1000 model has a bit weaker battery, which is another reason why the 2000 model is a great option. Now one feature that I think people don't talk about as much is that this thing has Bluetooth, so you can use Bluetooth headphones on here. You don't need to use the headphone jack on here, which, I mean, the headphone jack is helpful, but you know, using wireless headphones on this is crazy. The 3DS doesn't even have Bluetooth. The Switch, which is Nintendo's newest console, doesn't even have Bluetooth. You also have a internet browser, which the Switch doesn't have now. And also, I know the 3DS does have an internet browser, but I think on the Vita, I think it's used a lot better. When I'm playing Persona 4 Golden, which I'll talk more about in the video, but if any of you know about Persona 4 Golden, is that, you know, there's some tests that you probably don't know the answer to, and you just want to look up the answer just so you can get the knowledge points. Let's say you're in the game, right? So let's say you're the teacher asks you a question. What you do, you just press home, and you just have the internet browser right here. As you can see, I do have some tabs open regarding Persona 4 Golden, and let's just go ahead and open this up. Here I'm on IGN's official Persona 4 Golden Guide. And as you can see, I got all the answers right here, and all I have to do is go back. And look at that, I'm right back in the game. I mean, obviously, you could just pull out your phone and look up the answers there, but I mean, there's something convenient about just looking up the answers on the same device. You know, you don't have to pull out your phone just to look up some answers. I mean, all you have to, I mean, it's easily accessible right here. Another thing I really like about the Vita is that you can have themes on here, which I know I just have a basic yellow one, but I think even then, like, it comes with different colors compared to the Switch only having black and white. You also have the PS4 Link, and there's also the PS3 Link, but I mainly use the PS4 Link, where you can play your PlayStation 4 straight on your Vita. Now, depending how you have your PS4 set up, you're gonna get different results. If you have your PS4 tethered to Ethernet, then you're gonna get a better connection. But if you're using your PS4 through Wi-Fi, then it might be a little bit weaker, but I still think it works pretty good. Now, the only problem with the PS4 Link is that the PlayStation Vita does not have enough buttons as a PS4 controller. You're missing the clickable analog sticks, and you're also missing extra shoulder buttons. So what you have to do is basically use either the touchpad on the back or use the touchscreen here, which, I mean, it depends what game you're playing. If you're playing something that requires you to always use L2 and R2, then it's probably going to be a little bit more frustrating. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I guess it's a good alternative. I mean, it still works when you play those games. What I also like about the Vita is that it still supports trophies. Now, I mean, Nintendo doesn't have anything like trophies or even Xbox's achievements, which, I mean, honestly, I've grew to really like the trophies. I think it gives you more of a reason to either explore a game or complete the game on different modes. I know people are really crazy about trophies. I mean, I don't really look to get every single trophy, but it's still pretty cool when you accomplish something in the game. You can also send messages to people on the Vita, which you can't do on the Switch or the 3DS. And it's also cool because you can actually take a picture on your Vita and send it in a message, which, I mean, I think is the only time when the cameras are really useful. Other than that, you really don't need the cameras, to be honest with you. And their interface is pretty cool too. I mean, it's pretty simple. You know, you can use your finger to move around, or you can use the sticks. So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff I don't really like about the system. Most of these are nitpicks, but the one I'm about to talk about is probably the biggest issue with the Vita that pretty much anyone has with it, and of course that's going to be the memory cards. Now, this doesn't use micro SD cards. It doesn't even use regular SD cards. What it uses is their proprietary memory cards. So what I have right here is a 8GB PS Vita memory card. And actually what I have in the Vita right now is a 4GB, and the 4GB one goes for $20 at GameStop used. So these can be really expensive even today, when, you know, the Vita is already not supported by Sony. But I mean, these are what killed the Vita, in my opinion. This is the main thing that killed the Vita. I mean, no one wanted to buy these memory cards, and when you could just buy an SD card for a lot cheaper. So the other issues I have, these are just going to be some nitpicks. One of the nitpicks I have are the lack of inputs, like I mentioned earlier. These look like these can click in. I actually thought they did, but the analog sticks don't click in, and you also don't have extra shoulder buttons. That's obviously not a problem when you play Vita games because they were made for the Vita, but like I said, it is an issue if you want to play PS4 games. It can also be a little bit uncomfortable after a while. Now, I know that could be said about any handheld, but I mean, this thing is pretty slim, so there's not a lot of grip to the system, which is probably another reason why you will go for the 1000, because that one does have a little bit of girth to it. So there is a solution for the lack of inputs and making the system more comfortable, is you can buy a grip which would come with the extra shoulder buttons, and basically it'll make the Vita a lot better in the hands. However, those grips have gotten really expensive, sometimes even more pricier than the actual Vita itself, which is just downright crazy. So another nitpick I have is that the O and X buttons are switched because this is a Japan model, and over there O is what's used to accept an action and X is to back out. So that's, I mean, but that's easily fixed when you put in an American game. Those inputs are switched to how they're supposed to. But when navigating the menu, I sometimes forget that. But you know, most of the times I do use the touchscreen, so I actually do forget to use the buttons. So it's not a big issue. It's just something I guess to know about when you get a system from Japan. And then also this is a little bit of a fingerprint magnet. You might still see some fingerprints on here, but I mean, obviously a quick wipe down and then you're good. But it's just something to note about this system. So that's going to be it about the Vita itself. Let's go ahead and talk about the games. And of course, the first game we're going to talk about is Persona 4 Golden. Now, Persona 4 Golden is owned by most people who have a Vita. Not all of them, but most people own Persona 4 Golden. Playing this on the Vita was at the time the only way to play Persona 4 Golden. It wasn't until recently that Persona 4 Golden was released for the PC. So I am glad that now more people have access to this game because it's a really well-made game. I actually have two versions right here, which I'll tell you why I have two versions. But as you can see, this is kind of a fake case pretty much. I got this at GameStop and I just printed off the cover, but this is the legit thing right here. Now, if you don't know anything about Persona, it's basically a JRPG. It kind of works like Pokemon. It's turn-based. You know, you collect personas. You can make more powerful personas by pretty much forming bonds with the people around you in the game. You know, you're just a kid who's going to school trying to solve murders, you know, stuff like that. Now, I don't recommend this game for everyone, obviously. You gotta kind of really be interested in JRPGs. The Vita is well known for having a bunch of JRPGs. So, I mean, there's a chance that if you're getting a Vita, you're probably gonna get Persona 4 Golden. But if not, I mean, that's okay. So, if this is your first time going into Persona, I do recommend that you start with Persona 5 Royal. I think Persona 5 Royal is a better game in my opinion, but that's only because I played Persona 5 first. That was my first Persona game. I mean, if you play Persona 4 Golden first, then I do think that's the game you probably think is better. But what I will say about this game is that I think the humor in Persona 4 Golden is better than Persona 5 Royal. I don't know why. I mean, there's definitely some funny parts in Persona 5, but man, like the humor in this game is crazy. I feel like you'll get a better hang of the game when you play, of course, the newer titles. But I mean, this is still a great game. I haven't finished it myself, so maybe I'm not in a position of saying which one's better, but I mean, I've put in a good almost 60 hours into it. I'm almost done. I think I'm in November right now, but I do plan on finishing this soon. So this is the game I've been playing on the Vita the most right now. Once I finish this, I'll definitely be trying out the other games, but I did pick up some other stuff and I will show you what I have. So the next game I own is actually just the cartridge itself. I got this at GameStop for 10 bucks. This is Final Fantasy X. I heard this is a really good RPG. I haven't even played a Final Fantasy game, to be honest with you, so I think this will be my first Final Fantasy. I did hear some good things about it. I will be checking this out eventually. Next game I own is Persona 4 Dancing All Night. This is also a game that won't appeal to a lot of people, even though I did hear that this is a really good rhythm game. I think you really have to just play Persona 4 Golden first in order to appreciate this game. I've actually started playing the Persona 5 rhythm game, Dancing in Starlight, which is really good, and you know, since I've played Persona 5, I could really appreciate the music in it. I could appreciate the characters in the game. So I definitely wanted to complete Persona 4 Golden before I started playing Dancing All Night. So this is definitely for those who've played Persona 4 Golden and really want to get back with interacting with characters and exploring the great music in the game. The next game I own is it's a used copy, as you can see, and it does say Lego Marvel Superheroes, but it's actually let me focus the camera right here. This is Lego Batman 2. Now the thing about this is, you know, I went to GameStop. I asked them if they have anything for the Vita because, you know, I was on a Vita crave, and you know, they printed out this list and I saw Lego Marvel Superheroes for 10 bucks and I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and pick that up. They gave me the copy. They pulled it out from the drawers, you know, behind the counter. You know, they rang me up. I took the copy, and you know, I opened it in the car, right? And it's it's Lego Batman 2. I mean, it's a Lego game, but it's not the Lego game I thought I was gonna get. So at first I was like, you know what? I mean, it's fine. I don't have this game either way, so you know what? Let me go ahead and just take it. But I looked on the app, and it said Lego Batman 2 for the Vita is only $5, and you know, I paid $10. So I mean, you know, I went in, they refunded me the $5, and I still got the game. But it's just kind of weird that GameStop had Lego Marvel superheroes, you know, in the system, but they really had Batman 2 the whole time. Which, I mean, I don't know, that's a whole different issue with GameStop themselves. But I mean, I still got a game I didn't own. You know, I got refunded my $5. It's all good. I played Lego Batman 2 on the 3DS. I mean, it's the same game as on the 3DS. It's alright. I think obviously the one on the console is better because you get to roam around Gotham. And then the final game I have is, I recently picked this up, Need for Speed Most Wanted. I don't know much about it. I just went ahead and picked it up. I'll let y'all know if I enjoy this or not once I get around to it. Alright, so that's the physical games I have for the Vita. So I'm also going to talk about I guess one of the main reasons why people want to own a Vita today, besides of course playing Persona 4 Golden, is that this is a great device to hack. Now, I know a lot of people aren't on board with hacking. Actually, you know, I wasn't really on board with hacking, mainly because I was scared of, you know, ruining the system. So before I hacked the Vita, I actually hacked one of my PSPs. You know, I still kind of had that fear, but you know, I own two 1000 PSP models, so I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and try this out. If one breaks, you know, it'll be fine. I still have another one. So I went ahead and hacked it. And it was actually pretty simple. I think you really need to try to ruin your PSP. You know, since that process was easy, you know, I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and try to hack the Vita. But you know, before I wanted to hack it, I wanted to be able to get more space, which is why I went ahead and got this on Amazon. This is really popular with hacking the Vita. This is a micro SD adapter, which, you know, it goes in a game card slot. And of course, right here, I have a memory card in it already. This is a 128 gigabyte micro SD card. And so basically, you don't need to use these little stupid memory cards, because now, thanks to hacking, you now have not only a cheaper option, but you also have way more storage. And just like hacking the PSP, this was a really easy process. I mean, you really need to try in order to mess this up. The directions are easy. You just, you know, copy a few files and you basically have a hacked Vita, like just like that. So after following a few tutorials on YouTube, I went ahead and hacked the Vita, and I'm going to show you basically what I put on the Vita. So after putting in the micro SD card, I have my hacked games on the system. So let me just show you what I used to hack it. I use H Encore 2, that's the custom firmware, and then you have the Vita shell, which comes with the H Encore, and then right here we have RetroArch, which we will talk about in a second. And then what I use to get some of the games that I'm about to show, which is package right here. Let me go ahead and show you what I have. So I have Persona 5 Dancing and Starlight, and then the next game I have is Final Fantasy X-2, and then this is basically what was supposed to come with Final Fantasy X. If you bought it brand new, it was supposed to come with a code for you to download Final Fantasy X-2, but since I bought it used, I went ahead and just downloaded it using the package app. And right here I have Fruit Ninja, which is, you know, I played Fruit Ninja when it was popular back in the day. Basically the same thing, only on the Vita. We have Metal Gear Slug 3. We have Retro City Rampage. And then we have a game called Actual Sunlight. I think I just downloaded to test the app, see if it would download correctly. Alright, so now we're in the app RetroArch, which is basically where I play my ROMs. So I can play all sorts of systems, from the Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. We got Game Gear on here as well. We got the Master System, we got the NES, and of course the SNES. So let's go ahead and try out one of the Game Boy Advance ROMs on here. Let's go ahead and try out Bratz. Let's go ahead and run it. And there you go. We got Bratz running on here pretty good actually. So as you can see, I have just a good amount of games on here from all these consoles. And I think this is what's really cool about this is that, well, I mean, let's say you were on vacation or something. Basically, you don't have to take a bunch of systems with you. All you really need is the Vita. You could play Vita games, you could play some Game Boy games, Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo. I mean, they're all right here, just ready for you to jump into, which is a really good benefit of hacking your Vita. So now I'm going to talk about something I actually got pretty recently. I actually got it last week in the mail, and that is a PlayStation TV. Now, if you don't know what a PlayStation TV is, it's basically a Vita that you can play on the TV. It was originally called the PlayStation Vita TV, but they dropped it because, you know, the Vita did not sell pretty good. So it just works as a Vita. It has the same interface, and you know, you have the card slot on here, so you can put it in Persona 4 Golden and play it on the TV. You can actually plug in Ethernet, so which is pretty cool. You have HDMI, you have a USB port right here, and then right here is the memory card slot. And of course, you have the power input right here. So I mean, this is a pretty collectible now. I actually bought this for $200 on eBay, which may seem a lot, but it actually came with, of course, the power cable and the HDMI cable. But it actually came with the 8GB memory card, as well as Persona 4 Golden, which is why I have two, because it actually came with the PlayStation TV. So this is basically around $60 right now, and then I guess a 8GB card probably goes for around 30. So this was basically $100. Obviously, if you bought this one back when it was on clearance, obviously you got the better deal than I did. But like I said, this is basically collectible, and I mean, it's a pretty good device, honestly. So it's basically a Switch, but just with a few extra steps. So basically what you do is you put the Vita memory card into the system, and then whatever game you want to play, and you basically play your Vita games on the TV. Now, not all games work with the PlayStation TV. I don't know which games exactly don't work, but you know, Persona 4 Golden obviously works here. You can either use a PlayStation 3 controller, or you can use a PlayStation 4 controller. I like using a PlayStation 4 controller more, but just my issue with it is that I have to resync it up with the PlayStation 4 when I want to play it on that. So I just went ahead and used a PlayStation 3 controller. Now, the main issue I have with the Vita is that when I am using the PlayStation 4 controller, when I plug in the headphones to the controller, the audio doesn't work. So it doesn't work how when you would plug in a headset into the controller and then you get the volume coming through there. It just doesn't work on the PlayStation TV. Another issue I have is just mainly issue that I personally have, because I had to capture game footage, is that I couldn't capture game footage because Sony has this thing basically where they said, no, you can't play this. They have this option in the PlayStation 4 where you can turn it off and, you know, capture game footage like that. But, you know, with the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation TV, you don't have that option. So it's you have to buy this extra HDMI splitter just so you can get footage, which is what you're seeing right now. But I mean, that's just a issue I personally have with it. But other than that, I mean, it works pretty good. It's a good way to play Vita games on the TV. And also, I mean, this also can use the PlayStation 4 link. So if you're on vacation or something, you don't have to bring your whole PlayStation 4. You can just bring this with you, and this takes up less space than a PlayStation 4 would. So after everything I just talked about, my final thoughts about the Vita is that this is a really great handheld. Not only does it have great games, but this is a really good emulation device. Once I finish Persona 4, I will be checking out the other games on the Vita. It's a shame that it didn't do good back in the day. Obviously, you know, now since, you know, we can hack the system and put all these different games on it. I mean, it's a really good system, but you know, it's really a shame that it didn't do as good. I think it's mainly because of Sony. They really doomed it from the start with those memory cards, man. I think the 3DS is still a pretty good system itself. Obviously, the reason why you get a 3DS over the Vita, you know, is for the Nintendo exclusives. And then, you know, the Vita is obviously a more powerful console than the 3DS, but you know, they don't have those 3DS exclusives. But you know, the Vita does have exclusives itself. You know, you have Killzone Mercenary, you have Uncharted, you have the PlayStation All-Stars. I mean, you have a good amount of games to play on the Vita. Well, that's going to be it for today's video. For those who own a Vita, let me know about your experiences. And if you don't own a Vita, I want to know if I persuaded you to get a Vita. I will be reading and replying to all your comments, so be sure to share your opinions. Thank you guys for watching, and of course, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Man, I need to finish Persona, man. There's too many games on this thing.